This is a partial review of Clockwork from Simon Henke. It's a plugin, and you can find it via plugins, and you've got plugin panel, browse plugins, manage plugins, and you can go and search on the Adobe Exchange for this plugin. There is a free version of it, worth checking out, and you've got Clockwork, Circle Arranger, and Gear Creator. Now, it's a partial review because there's one or two bits of the functionality that doesn't seem to work for me, and that's in the Gear Creator. So if I go to the Gear Creator, you've got this gear, which is great. It really is great that there's a gear tool within Photoshop. But unfortunately, it's got a shape option that doesn't seem to do anything. If I click it, nothing happens. Now, maybe it's just my machine, maybe it's my setup, but for some weird reason, it doesn't seem to work. But I can use the path option and create a path and then turn it into a shape. But it's a bit more, obviously, fiddly doing it that way. But I'm going to go first to the Circle Arranger. And you can see an example here. Now, I've noticed that during run through this, there's some real odd quirks with this as well. Now, you can use this with shapes, you can use it with type, you can use it with images, whole range of different layers. Anything that's a layer, it seems to work nicely with a few exceptions. I'm just going to select this area. I'm just going to create something. So let's just quickly create that. Just make something to work with. And there's a bit of a design there. And I can resize it. And now I'm going to rotate it using this Circle Arranger. Now, of course, you can do this with transforms. Perfectly reasonable. You can transform, use different origin points and transform, create multiple copies. But it's fiddly. This means it's sort of live. Arrange circular. So you can click it and you know straight away it doesn't do anything. The reason, which is an odd default by anyone's thing, 0. For some weird reason, it seems to be stuck at 0 for me. Don't know why. I would have said more sensible would have been 4 as a default to create something like that. Well, 3, I should say. Now, this is a slight confusing. I think it shouldn't be additional elements. It should be elements, and it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, not 0. It's confusing when you've got additional elements, especially when you get to 100 and 150. You start having to add 150 plus 1. So you put it down to 0, you just get the singular one, the original source material. Now you can also rotate it, so let's just rotate it. You can see you can rotate it there. So it's a nice transform tool as well. But if I go here, 4, and you can then rotate it. Now put it back down to 0, and let's put it 3. So you can see 3. Now you can change the radius. Now the radius by default is the document center. Now I don't know why it doesn't say document center. That would be more sensible, doc center. Anyway, that's just me maybe. Also there's this option here. You can click here and you can add additional points you want to use. It's not a color picker. So that confused me at first. I thought, what's that? Personally, I think it should just be some text, a button. So you could click and then you can create around the center point there. Now also another thing that I would like would be something to highlight the original item. So if you've got the original shape, it would be nice if that was highlighted with a band around it or something to indicate which one was the original. Because I don't know now which one is the original one to put my center around. Unless I, of course, go to additional elements, put it back to that, and then I can click here. So I can just click there, and I've got that center point around there. And then I can say, oh, okay, let's just 0.1, and I can say radius. And it goes that way. Which is slightly confusing. I was expecting to go the other way, but still. So if I push that up, you can see it's obviously 405 pixels. I haven't measured it. I'm certain that is the case. You've also got alignment. So you can go outside. So it pushes it up, obviously, the shape, size. You can see it's just moved up by itself. Or the center, around the center. So it's just in between the inside and the outside. You've also got rotation. So you can put it at 50 degrees. You can see, do that. But let's go additional elements. Again, now you can see it's around that center point. But I have noticed it gets a bit confused at times. And suddenly it starts going off like in this spiral design. I'm not certain what's happening there. I've just had to refresh the machine, Photoshop, and then it seems to fix it. But I've noticed occasionally it just seems to go, very strange. But you've got here start rotation. What does that do? Personally, I think all the rotations and things, features, anything with rotation should be all connected in the same area. Slightly confusing layout in that circle options, but then you've got rotation down here, which is clearly part of the rotation option, start rotation, but still. I would actually say that that doesn't make any sense in this start. Oh, that's a start rotation for the object. What's the difference between that and that one? Okay, I don't know. I guess if I move that around there, that's what it does. So yes, confused myself at that point. So I put it to 180. I don't like the fact that it's just sliders. I think you should be able to enter values because there is a problem. You push the range up here and the limit's 1,000. Well, if you're using a document that's 10,000 by 10,000, you might want it to be 10,000. I know you can resize it. That's not really good because you then have to think about the size of the object and all that sort of stuff. Whereas if you just let the value be 10,000, now the slider doesn't have to match. The slider can end at 1,000. That's perfectly reasonable, but you should be able to override it and enter 10,000. But any value, and also it means that you can make it fine tune it because you get to 808, 807. Sometimes it's very hard just to move that backwards and forwards. Sometimes I end up going backwards and forwards thinking, just get it just right, yeah. So I feel that it would be nice if it was slider and also edit field. You've also got default settings. I've got one I created earlier, preset. You can just create and delete. Now, one feature that I did slightly confusing with this, let's say picker, it's got a picker, you can add points here, but you can't remove them. So you might end up with, say, 5 or 6. When you come back to it later, it still seems to have got those in, even though it might not be relevant for the shape or design that you're actually using at that point. So that's slightly confusing. But here, so I go with 180 also, start rotation. So I guess that's what it's doing. So you can just shift it around, which is reasonable. So you can see if I do that start rotation, it will rotate it. Again, rotation, start rotation. Yeah. We've also got here auto rotate. So if I deselect that, it just goes back to the angle that it was at the start. However, it just uses this if it's 0. If I turn around and say make that 67, it just shifts them around. Then it starts to get slightly confused. I've noticed that sometimes when I've done it and I've gone back to it, it's got a bit confused about state it is. It doesn't do it then. Of course, it's always the way when you're running through this. Sometimes during run-throughs of this, I've noticed it start to make things like going off in a bit of a weird spiral shape. The transformation goes a bit odd. But again, fixed by just simply closing it down and starting up again. So you've got that. And you can create all kinds of unique shapes. And obviously I've just gone for a very basic shape in this case. What I'd love to see in this, and it will make it even better, would be a feature to go from this centre point, duplicate this design here, and put it out here, and put it out, put it out. So you've got this design. Let's just go full range. Let's go full range, and let's just change the rotation and something like that. And you can update at any time by clicking here. Now, it seems to work auto-update some of the time. When you go for some of these presets, it does seem to suddenly lose the auto-update feature. There is definitely times when it just does not seem to update, and it only updates when you move the radius. So if I move that, sometimes it just doesn't change, and I have to go down here and click arrange. Then it refreshes itself, and then we'll update. Just notice that odd sort of slight quirks there occasionally. So you've got that, but it would be nice if you could just, again, range circular. I've got this design. Let's just close this down now. I'm not going to work anymore with that one. But you've got this design here. Would it be nice to be extended out? So let's just go to layer, smart object, convert to smart object. I'll resize it a bit. And then I'm just going to alter option key and duplicate and make it bigger. And that's what would be nice. So it just comes out from that center point. And again, alter option key and again, resize it a bit. I'm doing it very quickly so it's not very accurate. Again, obviously you should be able to change the order. You can change the order with those settings. But you can see then you would get more designs going out. Obviously it'd be slightly slower to run, but it would be really even more flexible to have that option of radial as well as circular as well. I can't see the reason why that would just make the plugin even more super useful. And also would be another option would be really great. Within that, also have a rotate feature with that as well. So instead of just having it going outwards, you've got an option just to slightly skew it by an angle, a certain angle. And again, so hold down the Alt Option key and again rotate it by another. So you could end up with sort of going around in like a flower design, a circular flower designs, which of course you can then modify. And also maybe some other options in terms of different types of shape. So you've got shapes that follow maybe ellipses or maybe a spiral path design. So it's moves outwards. And also a scaling feature would be really nice in this. So let's just close that. If you go back here, a scaling feature. So each time an element's created, it's slightly smaller than the first one. So it's like 99%, 98%, etc. That would be useful. Just minor points. I think it's just great. It's a great tool, a feature that should be in Photoshop anyway, a nice circle arranger. Okay, so that's really great. And of course, I've only just done it with that shape. I mean, it's to be unfair to say, because it's actually really useful for lots of different shapes. Let's just go pen tool. So you can just use pen tool, create design like that, and you've got that sort of shape. And of course, you can have multiple shapes. You've got that. And again, arrange circular, and you've got a design very quickly that way. And of course, that design can then be turned into a custom shape, and so on. Okay, the next feature. Let's just remove this one. And you've got the gear creator. Now, the gear creator has again got presets. Now, I haven't used all the features. I can admit that. I've gone through a number of them. I found them the main reason is because I can't access the shape. Using it with path is slightly harder to see because paths are not very, they are what they are. But again, you've got presets. I would have thought maybe 5 or 10 presets to start with would be very useful because obviously different cogs that people, you've got some basic cogs to go with. So I'm just going to go with that. And just to start it, create your first one. Let's go with, say, path. And you can see you've got your path. Now, if you want to, you can then go over here and you've got path selection tool, you've got direct selection tool. So you can select them all. Just simply drag over it like that. And you can see all the points. It's a path. It's a standard path. Paths are great. You can use it in lots of various filters and things. There's like flame. It can be used, etc. But you can also use it with like brush strokes and much, much more. So it's a great feature that should not be ignored. But what you can also, it's still live, so you can actually go over here and you can change the radius. And you can see as you do that, increase it or decrease it. Again, it would be nice if there was edit fields. It would be nice if you could extend it beyond 1,000. The slider, fine. Sliders are always great, but I find I prefer clicking on that and editing the value. Make it 6,000 or 10,000. Or the size distribution, I want to change things like that. And again, you've got here, center. You can modify the center. 0.1, let's just select that. And you can add addition, again, because of this, I think it should be just a text button personally. Doesn't mean anything because I think it looks like that's basically a color feature. To me, pick center, I know it says that, but that's what it should be. It should say pick center. Let's just put it back to dock center. And you've got a number of teeth. So there, you can change the number of teeth. And as you can see, as you do that, you've also got here size distribution. Let's just move that around. You can see that changes as well. So you can make nice, thin, unusual designs like that. Size distribution. I think that's, you literally create millions of different designs using this. I know gears and cogs, probably not. You think, oh, that's not much. You can create star designs with this. Lots of different things that can be done with a bit of tweaking some of these settings. It isn't just a gear creator. That's always the trouble. When you call something like gear, cogs, it looks like, oh dear, it's only just gears and cogs. Well, it can with a bit of like invention with the settings. Actually, that's another feature. Just thinking about it, I would love to see, actually in the other one as well, a randomizer feature. Button at the bottom, click random. So you can randomize the settings. Because sometimes I go through this and you're going through radius, just click random and it just makes it, 10 points. And you think, oh, that's a great unique shape. And sometimes you might never get to that shape if you just use all these settings. You go through all these settings and you think, oh, yeah, I can do that. The roots, bottom rounding. See, sometimes you look and think, I have no idea what bottom rounding is. Now, I don't think it came with a manual. It would be nice to have a manual, obviously, with all these. Maybe there is. And actually, that would be a nice feature if you could go up here and say, maybe a panel in here that pops up and says, what split pinch means. Because you might actually just go to this and just move the slider backwards and forwards and go, oh, you can see subtle change there. But you might just change it a few times and go, well, change it 1%, 4%. And depending on the settings, you might find that you think, it's not doing anything. So you might go for a long time thinking, well, that doesn't do anything. Therefore, you ignore it. And it's probably a powerful feature. But if it's not given a little bit of description in a panel or something, it's very hard to work out. And you might also, obviously you've got the preset there, the default settings. So if I go to full setting, again, it doesn't update. I just have to click the path to re-update it. It's weird. I think the preset should immediately update as well as the other settings. Because if you modify this, the presets do seem to have odd, that should be updating. But curvature, so you can modify the curvature. You can see, now the curvature is very subtle. We're not talking huge. Pinch, and you've got pinch there. I guess that's pinch. 19%. Again, some of these settings are very, very subtle. Extrusion, again, that should be, you should be able to set it to 500, 700 to make it like star designs. It's a missed opportunity if you don't it should be not just gear creator. Personally, I think it should be not called gear creator. I think you should have called it just a shape creator or something, or so there must be a sort of generic sort of starburst creator, sort of star. It literally thousands of different shapes can be created. It's not just gears. And again, size distribution, you can modify that, make it very thin sort of cogs and amount. So you can make it, like I say, like a star. It's a star, it becomes like a star design. And you've got here top rounding. Again, probably when you've got very thin ones, you're not going to notice much difference. Invert extrusion, so that's just, and it make it go inwards. And that's useful. That's quite a powerful setting, just tucked down the bottom, which is a pity, because I think that's quite useful. Actually, that makes a lot more design, just a simple thing that doesn't look very much. And also you've got here bottom rounding, so you can see you can make stuff like flower designs. That looks more like a flower. And also you've got here rounded. That's root star inset. Oh, that's a nice one. I think actually it'd be nice if there was like 10 more options there. There must be lots of different things you could put there. Maybe lots of circular ones, maybe ones with dips in the top, maybe ones that are sort of slightly going outwards, slightly pointed at the far end, and so on. There must be a number of other options of styles that would be nice. You've also got inset, which is good. Again, you can create some stars that go the other way. You can create that sort of design. But I think they should be in the root style as well. A load more options there. Maybe make it 3 or 4 points, 5 points, 10 points. Maybe make an option within here to add additional points within that root. Unless I'm confusing myself with what functionality that it does. But it would be nice there. Also, you've got rings, which I think is great. You've got a circular ring there, so you can increase it, that centre point. Of course, most gears need, obviously, when you're putting a gear, you have to have a central point. So that's useful. You've got ring 2, and that creates a secondary ring, which is good. Now, like I say, without doing it the shape option, it is actually hard to see. And because it's, and I don't know how well this is coming across in the video, if you've got see the screen, you might not see these points. So I might be, so you see, there's nothing there. Yes, it is. There is actually lines there. So that's a good point. Let's just go fill, and I'm just going to fill that with white. Maybe that might be better. Yes. There's me talking over that, just thinking about it. Maybe make it easier to see it. But you can see the sort of features. And you've got angle. Again, randomise would be brilliant with this, because you just randomise and you could get literally millions of shapes coming through that you probably won't discover. Because there's a lot of functionality. Pinch, you can go, pinch does a bit. Just if I decrease that, you can see it there. You got tilt. Oh, that's good. That's nice. You see tilt there, you make it slight angular, you've got tilt, it just turns it around slightly. Extrusion, let's just reduce that down. Amount, that's number of teeth of course, and you can reduce that down. And let's just go here, size distribution again, just change it. It creates a lot of different designs, and you can see that's slightly rough. Now I don't know why the inner rings are looking rough. That's strange. I would have assumed that they would still be quite circular and sharp, and they wouldn't change at all. That would be even a nicer feature, would be if you could again, like the other one, have an option where it creates additional going outwards from with a certain distance between them. So you could actually literally create that design and then have it the next design up. So outwards, so it just go outwards, that design outward all the way thing. So you have like 10 of copies of this going outwards in a certain design, maybe with a slight shifting of angle again. So you could have it slightly shifting, maybe make it spiral design. Then literally you could see a lot more additional functionality in terms of that to create literally infinite amounts of course, with the shape of this pass, maybe then you could have it going, I don't know, there's lots of things I could possibly see. Maybe it's pretty tricky to create that kind of thing, but it would be a nice sort of feature. Visually, I think it would be quite impressive. And that's another thing in the sense that obviously a pixel option probably would be nice as well, but that's not feasible because it'd be updating pixels all the time. Maybe a smart object. So it creates, especially a shape, creates a smart object. I don't know. But still. So let's say we've created this shape and you're really happy with this shape. And sorry, I've gone on for quite a bit. This is a review of a thing, as well as just run through things that I think that could be updated. You've created it. As going, say the shape feature doesn't do anything. But I've got path. And I've got my path here. And I've got my path here. You can see the path here. It's a work path. You can turn that into a selection. So let's just, I could click there. So selection, straight away, selection. Undo selection change. I'm not going to do that. But what I can do, I can also go over here and direct selection tool. Now I don't have to select all the points. I could select some of them. So you might just decide, you know what, I want that bit. Just select part of it. And you could use those. But I want the whole lot. So I'm just going to select the whole lot. And I can go to edit and define custom shape. So define custom shape. And I've got that shape there. And you can see the shape design. Click OK. Now I'm going to remove that now. Because now what I can do, I just go over here to the shape, custom shape tool, and I've got one already, I've created already, but you've got there, select that one. And you can see the design there. I say, it does seem unusual that the circular designs in the centre are using the points out here. I would have thought just creating the circles without any additional points, just basic 4 points. I don't know. Because it does end up making a slightly more crude looking circle. But that's just a minor point. Fill, because you can always replace them, of course, you can always edit the shape, you can always modify and then just add additional shapes to it, combine them. You can change the colour now, so I can make it a gradient and so on. Whole range of different designs. And of course, go to layer, layer style, bevel and emboss, and you can see, create that, to create a variety of different designs very quickly, just using that. But it's a pity this shape feature doesn't seem to work for me. But you've still got this shape. You've still got the path there. And of course, you can always then go transform path. You've got perspective, warp. So you can warp it, distort the design, that. So you've got your gear. It can be distorted in, obviously convert it at that point. But there's lots of great features you can do with this. I think it's great. Gear Creator. Also think the Circle Arranger is a really nice feature. So please check out the plugin. So if you go to plugins and then you can browse for the plugin, it's called Clockwork. Slightly confusing that obviously it's got here Circle Arranger and Gear Creator, but the plugin itself is called Clockwork. So check that out on the Adobe site. Really worth checking out. And also he's got other ones as well. Specs is very, very useful. Very nice feature. And other ones as well. Hope you found this of interest. Any questions, please put in the comments below. Or even better, obviously, if you've got any questions about the plugin, go and check out their site as well, because obviously you've got lots of information about the plugins on the site, and probably other videos and things as well, explaining details that I probably haven't explained. And the fact I don't, at this point, understand every single option of these, to be honest. Without accessing the shape feature, it is actually hard sometimes to see slightly what they are. But I hope you found this of interest. Thank you much. Bye.